Throw this on the old workbench. Here it is, $50 of glory. It's in-car entertainment. Single DIN. It says navigation system, but it's just Android Auto, Apple Carplay. This was 50 bucks. You know, free shipping plus tax from Walmart.com. Not a sponsor. Let's see. Comes with a microphone that I didn't hook up. Comes with a backup camera that I didn't hook up. Yeah. Comes with a thing to mount a remote control onto your steering wheel. I tried it. Not worth it. Too cheesy. So that stuff's all staying there. You might be saying, well, why wouldn't you hook up the microphone? Why wouldn't you hook up the camera? Well, I found out I don't like it that much. Pretty much before I wanted to go any further. So let me just run you through it. I got her running. Oh. Oh. All right, so here she is. I had to kind of modify the bezel here, if you want to call it the bezel, but this trim piece, I had to shave off some plastic to get this to fit, because this screen doesn't actually fit into the single DIN housing. Lovely, right? It's a single DIN unit on the back, but on the front, it's bigger than a single DIN. So it's probably a ½ inch taller than normal single DIN. I just did this because my Sony head unit that came with this car, after 5 years, the Bluetooth finally gave out on it. So I was like, you know, this is a risky move, but it's 50 bucks. So let's see what happens. Another thing, because of how I have this set up, I'm not able to close my door anymore. So if I were to do this again, I'd probably try to modify the frame that holds the radio. I think it's, Resto Tuner, I believe is not a sponsor, but Resto Tuner, I believe they do make a 3D printed new one of these. If you do need a new one, or you need one you can experiment with, I think it's like 30 bucks, somewhere in there. But to be honest, for 50 bucks, this thing's incredibly impressive. It's just, the audio sucks. And that's what's really eating at me. You do get this remote. It allows you to, you can change the volume, you can mute it, you can skip songs. Apparently you can answer phone calls. And apparently this one you can mount on the steering wheel, but it was just too hokey for me, so I'm not going to do that. Of course, you can do full screen weather radar if you so choose, which, I mean, power to you. Maybe if you're a storm chaser in your Del Sol. You have all your other info, your battery life, your 4G or whatever, telling me to turn off my camera because my phone's going to overheat. Thanks, Google Pixel. But if I go here, it switches the layout. If I push it one more time, pulls up all my apps that I can use. If you really want to use Target, you can. As far as the Google Maps goes, it's a pretty good setup, but you can't make this a dark mode. So if you're driving at night, this is going to be super bright, almost unbearable. I haven't found any way to make it darker, so that stinks. Let's see, try to improve phone performance by turning off camera. So my phone's already too hot. I'm blaming the Google Pixel, and it's running all this stuff with your Android Auto. I also noticed this is doing like a low quality Android Auto, so that kind of stinks. Let's see if I can zoom out with one hand here. It is decent though, it's not too laggy. Good picture. I can't complain too much about that. But when you're driving at night, this is a hazard because it is too bright, even with the brightness all the way down. I don't know, for me it's too bright. There's my gauges, and that is on the low brightness setting. And if I turn off my headlights, it's insane. You could never drive like that at night, obviously. But I have it set as low as it'll go for brightness. It's okay. Still too bright for me, because anybody that's driven a Del Sol knows you are sitting really low and everybody's headlights are just right in your eyes. So this is your Android Auto. Let's get out of here. I'm gonna scroll down. You have kind of your bar up top here. If I can get in there, it disappears way too fast. So you got your back button. This is notifications over here. Must be your phone. That must be on vibrate right now, I guess. Up here, yeah, you can go to home. This is the home screen on this radio. It definitely feels Chinese. One thing that is neat, you hit this bar and it shows you all your apps. So this is like a normal, kind of like an Android phone, and you can swipe either way to close things, like get rid of settings like that. And that's really seamless. It also has an equalizer. The only way that I've found to get to the equalizer, though, is to go to home and go to music. What's annoying about that is every time you go to music, it plays the same preloaded song that came on this head unit, I believe, unless somebody owned it before I did. But it is a Madonna song, and that's all it's on there. But to get to the equalizer, you gotta hit this guy down here, and then you have all your audio settings. But that's the only way to adjust them. So if you're in your Android Auto, you basically have to tab back into all your apps, then you bump back to Android Auto and you have that back. But if you want to make any changes to the audio, you got to go back, try to hit audio settings. Trying to do this, you don't do this while you're driving, it is terrible. But you do have your positions here. There's a loudness, a right peptide. Yeah, okay, I don't know. Bass, what, bass on or off? I mean, I don't know. I haven't noticed any difference with the bass. The loudness is like any other loudness thing. It does give you a little more bass, a little more loudness. Now you're probably looking at my EQ and going, what? All bass? Here's the problem with this radio. I pulled this out of the box, and it weighs a third of what the Sony head unit I had in here weighed. And that Sony head unit's from 2015. It's Bluetooth, Sirius XM ready. It's got a CD player. But ultimately, that radio has a much better amplifier than this one. Because this car, if you're sitting here with the car off, this radio sounds just fine. Especially at like volume 8, 10, sounds pretty good. You have decent bass. You're like, you know, this is a steal. This is incredible. And I was sitting here just blown away by the value of something that's $50 that would do all of this stuff that, like, you know, a new car has in it with the Android Auto. The problem is, in a Del Sol, it's loud while you're driving. A lot of the times you have your roof off, so it's louder. Well, as soon as you turn this volume up past 15 or 20 out of the 40, you know, so halfway, the bass no longer increases volume. So it is basically giving you just this crummy mid-range at an extremely loud volume. And the first day I drove this to work and back, my ears were aching by the time I got to work. And I'm like, what? Because I was having trouble like hearing the lyrics in the song, which was really odd to me. I'm like, you know, I've never had this problem. Like, I've always been able to hear everything really clearly in here, even though it's a loud car. Unless I'm going 70, you know, it's a little hard with the windows down, but I've always had really good bass response. I've never had sore ears unless the windows are down and I have it cranked. But what I've came to the conclusion is this has a really crappy amplifier, and I think it's also possible the signal on the Android Auto that communicates between the phone and the radio may be a lower quality signal. So I think the audio itself may be delivered in a lower quality than you would see from just a conventional Bluetooth or an auxiliary input. And you certainly can do Bluetooth music on this, you know, just Bluetooth. But in order to do that, you have to disconnect your Android Auto. So you have to do that on your phone, and it's a huge pain in the butt. You're going back and forth. You don't get to see the album art here, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having this head unit. And sure, the head unit has a lot of neat features. It really does. It's wired for steering wheel controls, which I don't have, but you could. But when it comes down to it, if you want a radio that sounds decent, this isn't it. And now for a demonstration of some of the weird stuff. As you go into video, and there's one preloaded video that automatically plays, which is really annoying. And it's A Taste of High Definition, and it's just a video of food that's 2 minutes long. And I mean, yeah, the quality is pretty good. I mean, let's get in there. Look at that egg. And whatever that is. So, I can't deny this is a pretty good screen for $50, but this food video is, I guess it's the best they could do. So yeah, you get to watch this video about food, and enjoy the incredible details. So wonderful. My next idea with this thing, since the sound quality is bad, is I'll take one of my old amps I have laying around, and I'm going to see if the output sounds any better than the amplified speakers. Because maybe that's the saving grace here. Maybe if you have this thing hooked up to an amp with RCAs, which I think you can do, maybe the sound quality will improve. So that's kind of my next project before I completely ditch this head unit. I do not have an amp routed in this car, so I think if I do this, I'm not sure how I'll go about doing that. I may just hook up some speakers separately, because otherwise I'm going to have to wire all the speakers, which, I don't know, it wasn't necessary with the old Sony head unit that was in here. It had plenty of power, plenty of bass, as much as these speakers can handle. And I don't have a sub in here, so that is that.